In 2018, 2019 and 2020 I was invited by the Panzermuseum Munster. Yes, I have to mention this due to Austrian laws. In this video we'll look at the Leopard 2, specifically the variant A4. Since Spain recently announced that they are thinking about sending some of the Leopard 2 A4 that were in their storage to Ukraine. We also look at the strengths and weaknesses of this variant, particularly in relation to the battlefield in Ukraine. And this will also bring us in contact with some other famous German tanks, especially the Tiger. Because apparently there are some significant parallels here according to one Leopard 2 commander, so I will take a closer look at his statements. Be aware that this script was written on the 8th June 2022, and as such details on the sale discussion likely will be outdated. The other parts should stay relevant. So ideally use the chapter system. As of 9th June 2022 I could find no news about this matter. Let us look at the political situation briefly. On 5th June 2022 Reuters reported that Spain is thinking about sending 40 Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. According to other sources, these Leopards should be Leopard 2 A4s. So a Leopard variant is also in use by other Western countries like Austria. Although the Spanish Leopards 2 were mothballed a while ago. In total, Spain received 108 Leopard 2 A4s from Germany in 1995-1996. According to one article from the Spanish Ministry of Defense from October 2012, at least 53 of these Leopards 2 were put in storage, with a view to potentially adapting them to be engineering tanks and bridge layers. According to another site, this program was cancelled, and 53 tanks should be kept in long-term storage to keep them operational for at least 5 years. That report was from November 2013. As of 8th June 2022, the initial announced number of 40 Leopards 2 has significantly dropped. The latest report stands at a maximum of 10 Leopards 2 A4s that are in bad condition. Additionally, Germany would have to approve the transfer, and so far Germany did not receive a request from Spain. Be aware that Spain also has more than 200 Leopard 2s in active service, but those are a sub-variant of the Leopard 2 A6, namely the Leopard 2E, or also called the Leopard 2 A6E, which is specifically adapted for the requirements of the Spanish army. Let us look at some general information about the Leopard 2 A4. The first Leopard 2s entered service in the German army in 1980, so 42 years ago. The Leopard 2 A4 is currently the most basic version of the Leopard 2. Since all previous variants, namely 2A0 to 2A3, were upgraded to the Leopard 2A4 standard. These upgrades were performed in the late 80s to the early 1990s. The first upgrades for the Leopard 2A5 happened in the mid-1990s. The Leopard was exported and was and is operated in many countries from close neighbors of Germany like Austria, Poland and Switzerland, but also as far away as Canada and Singapore. Note, there are many more countries in total. So let us look at the strengths and weaknesses of the Leopard 2 A4, in particular for service in Ukraine. For this I asked active and former service members about their opinions and tried to verify those opinions with data and other information. Let us start with the pros. The first one, it is a tank. And one could also say it's a quite modern tank. It is definitely better than a Leopard 1. For more about the Leopard 1, check out this video. Yet of course the Leopard 2 A4 is less capable than the more modern Leopard 2 variants like the A5, A6 or even A7. Yet more of this in the cons section. Due to its age and wide availability, if a Leopard 2 A4 gets captured, little to no important information will be acquired by the Russian armed forces. Although capturing a modern German battle tank, particularly one named after a famous cat, would very likely be used for propaganda purposes. One could also note that the firepower of the 120mm Rheinmetall L44 smoothbore is significant and should be able to deal with most if not all current Russian tanks even frontally, but that assumes it is equipped with the latest ammunition, and this might be a problem which you look at the cons. When it comes to armor protection, I had a hard time finding specific data. The hull casing of the Leopard 2 A4 consists of welded armored steel plates and it features composite armor at the front. Generally, against all ammunition, the Leopard 2 A4 should be protected if it is hit from the front. Due to lack of valid data, my educated guess is that the Leopard 2 A4 is likely in the above average against armor-piercing, fin-stabilized discarding sabot. Of course, Russian tanks equipped with Contact 5 armor like the T-72B3, the T-90 and of course the T-80U are clearly better off. When it comes to protection against hollow charge rounds, the Leopard 2A4 is very likely on the lower end, since a lot of tanks in Ukraine are equipped with at least Contact 1 reactive armor, since that is specifically made to defeat hollow charge warheads. Yet this probably could be changed if the Ukrainians would add their own explosive reactive armor blocks to the Leopard, namely the NIS, which means Knife Explosive Reactive Armor. Like the Russian Contact 5, it not only provides protection against hollow charge rounds, but also armor-piercing rounds. One weakness of the Leopard 2A4 is that it still uses hydraulic for the turret controls. This comes with the fire hazards and other problems compared to an electrical system like the Leopard 2A5. Yet the hydraulic system is similar to other systems in use in Ukraine. The Leopard 2A4 in overall comes with good crew protection as well. There are two areas for the armor, one in the front of the hull and one at the rear of the turret. The latter one is protected by blowout panels. This means the explosion would be directed outwards and the crew should not be harmed if none of the system is damaged or improperly operated. One area the Leopard 2A4 is particularly strong is in its mobility. The maximum speed of the Leopard 2A4 is given at 68 km/h and in reverse it is 31 km/h, which is good for shoot and scoot. Be aware that according to other sources this is not necessarily the maximum speed, higher values should be achievable. With a combat weight of 55 metric tons and about 1475 horsepower, it comes with a power to weight ratio of 26.8. In comparison, the T-72B3 has about 25.1. Additionally, trials by the Swedes showed that the Leopard showed a good mobility for terrain in the northern parts of Sweden with soft soil and deep snow. So in that regard, the Leopard 2A4 is in the top tier here. Now let us look at the cons next. First off is the weight, because this is a major drawback in many regards. The Leopard 2A4 has a combat weight of 55 metric tons. In comparison, the T-80U and T-90 have around 46, whereas the original T-64 had about 38, although the modernized Ukrainian T-64BM Vollert has 45. The values for the T-72 are similar, after all the T-90 is a modernized T-72. So you probably see a pattern here, namely that the T-tanks have a weight of around 45 metric tons. So why is this an issue? Well, for two simple reasons. First, the infrastructure. Nearly all the bridges were constructed around these weight limits. In the Ukraine, the total gross vehicle weight, vehicle chassis, container, genset and cargo combined for road haulage must not exceed 44,000 kg. Slightly heavier payloads may be possible, but these will depend on the combined weight of the specific equipment being used. Big thank you here to Tobias for making me aware of this. Now this means that both the tactical and operational mobility of the Leopard 2A4 is significantly hampered, since it would require reinforcing of bridges to be able to safely cross them. Furthermore, it could also lead to accidents that destroy or damage bridges. This probably sounds familiar to my regular audience, and this is where the connection to the Tiger comes up. To quote Roman Töppel on his book about the Battle of Kursk, construction works for the 60-ton bridge for the Tigers of the 2nd Company of the 503rd Heavy Panzer Battalion could not be concluded by the time the attack began. As the Soviet artillery kept shelling the bridging site, work had to be temporarily suspended. The second bridge, with a payload of 24 tons, was designated for the light and medium tanks. However, one of the Tiger commanders apparently did not want to wait idly on the western side of the Donets River while the infantrymen of the 19th Panzer Division suffered heavy casualties. Yet the problems don't stop here, since not only the Russian and Ukrainian infrastructure is constructed around these weight limits of around 45 metric tons, the same goes for the bridging equipment, bridge layers and recovery vehicles as well. As such, there is not really an alternative to cross the rivers. Furthermore, should a Leopard 2A4 be immobilized, it could be hard to recover as well, something we also know rather well from the Tiger and especially the Königstiger. In short, it would require significant preparation to bring the Leopard 2A4 into action. Additionally, reinforcing the bridges could tip off the Russian forces. Furthermore, for counterattacks and other mobile operations, this likely means no. As such, many of the qualities of the Leopard 2A4 could not be fully exploited. As previously mentioned in the firepower category, there are some problems. The Spanish Leopard 2A4s use armor-piercing fin-destabilized discarding sabot from Israel, and Israel currently is not providing ammunition to Ukraine. This would mean ammunition from other manufacturers needs to be used. This adaptation is very easy since the Leopard 2 firing control was built with the eventuality in mind of having to fire foreign ammunition in case of World War III. This should be rather easy if a manufacturer is found, but it might also take some time and of course further complicates the supply chain. There is also the issue of training. The Leopard 2A4 is widely different to the T-64, T-72 and other vehicles currently in use by the Ukrainian military. Unless there are enough foreign volunteers with experience on the Leopard 2A4, it would require a significant amount of training time, since it is a widely different system. Due to the wide adoption of the Leopard 2, it could actually be the case that enough trained foreign volunteers are in Ukraine. In this case, this point is actually not a drawback. The next part is about spare parts and maintainability. Here the opinions of the people I asked diverge the most. One argues there should be enough spare parts to the various upgrades from A4s to better variants, whereas another one points out that there could be not enough since some parts are not produced anymore. Generally, I assume there should be enough available in theory, but the main caveats are: A. In what conditions are these spare parts? B. Will they be delivered at all by the respective countries? C. Will they be delivered in time? D. Are there maybe spare parts that are really rare that are crucial? This is particularly of importance since the spare parts allocation and storage might be based on peacetime requirements and thus could differ to wartime requirements. E. Are there enough trained mechanics and engineers to maintain the Leopards? This is particularly important to the final two cons. First, it seems that the Leopard 2A4s from Spain are in bad shape. Second, the original number was around 40 tanks, but the latest report dropped to a maximum of 10 tanks, so basically a company. Now these are big cats, they need a lot of resources, so this would mean a huge strain on the logistical system of Ukraine. Also, unlike the Panzerhaubitze 2000, which ideally is placed at least a bit behind the front, the Leopard 2 would be more in the front. As such, it would be engaged likely far more often, so maintenance would be more difficult, more crucial and more time critical as well. Particularly the lack of capable armored recovery vehicles is an issue here. To summarize, the Leopard 2A4, particularly with a good amount of modern ammunition and NIS-reacted armor added, would be a formidable tank in the war in Ukraine. Even a Leopard 2A4 without additional reactive armor might be on the top of the food chain right now, but it really depends on how many of the better equipped Russian tanks were lost so far. If most of the T-72B3s, T-80s and T-90s are just rusted hulks, then this cat would be formidable. But considering the low numbers and bad shape of the currently proposed Leopard 2A4s from Spain, I don't think this is a particularly good option. If we are talking about the initial proposed number of 40 tanks, one could argue it might be worth it, but with just 10 tanks at best, so a tank company, I'm not sure if the cost outweighs the benefits. It could be the case since I'm not fully aware of the situation in Ukraine, their logistical capabilities and many other factors at play here. Keep in mind that Ukraine already has a large mix of different equipment and weapons. And generally big cats like the Leopard 2 are a logistical nightmare. So a complete additional supply and service chain has to be introduced. Yet just for a handful of tanks. The question is if it is worth it. If it is part of an initial shipment that will be followed up by more, this changes the situation of course. I hope you learned something new. Big thank you here to the former Leopard 2 gunner Tobias and the Panzergrenadier Kampfwaffe Kette for providing various insights on the capabilities and problems with the Leopard E4 and answering many of my questions. Thank you to Andrew for reviewing the script and providing very good feedback. Thank you to the former Leopard 2 commander Alex for further information. Thank you to the Panzermuseum Munster for inviting me in 2018, 2019 and 2020. Special thanks to all my supporters for making trips to museums and the military archives possible. As always, sources are listed in the description. Thank you for watching and see you next time.